The kind of silence that falls over Bellissimo isn't the absence of sound, it's the presence of fear. Marcus Chen doesn't notice it. He's 16, draped in a $3,000 Balenciaga hoodie, scrolling TikTok with the volume cranked high enough that every swipe echoes off the marble floors. His thumb pauses on a video of someone's Lamborghini catching fire. He laughs loud, sharp, the kind of laugh that makes waiters flinch. Across the table, his father David doesn't look up from his phone. The corner of his mouth twitches upward. That smirk. The one that says we own this place, and everyone in it knows it. But there's a man in the corner booth who isn't looking at his phone. Viktor Kozlov sits with his hands folded. A flip phone ancient, battered, resting beside his untouched wine. His suit is gray, forgettable. His face is the kind that makes you look away without knowing why. When Marcus's laugh cuts through the restaurant again, Victor's eyes lift. Just once. Just for a second. Every waiter within 10 feet takes a step back. The maitre d' approaches the Chen table. His hands trembling so slightly, only a trained eye would catch it. "Sir," he whispers. Leaning toward David, "Mr. Kozlov has requested you lower your volume." David Chen waves him off like he's swatting a fly. "We paid for this table. We'll be as loud as we want." Victor's bodyguard rises. The restaurant freezes. But Victor raises one finger. The bodyguard sits. Marcus films the whole thing, grinning. He posts it with the caption, "Old guy mad. I'm having fun." Victor's eyes drop to the phone in Marcus's hand. What happens when you break something a man like Viktor Kozlov can never replace? David Chen built his empire on a simple philosophy. Money doesn't just talk. It erases conversations entirely. Chen Digital Holdings didn't exist 10 years ago. Now, it's worth $500 million, a cryptocurrency and tech acquisition monster that swallows competitors whole and spits out press releases about synergistic growth. David started with nothing, a Stanford dropout who saw Bitcoin when it was $200, and had the audacity to bet everything. He won. Then he kept winning. Hostile takeovers, algorithmic trading, digital real estate. Every risk paid off, and every payoff made him bolder. His son Marcus has never known anything else. At 16, Marcus Chen treats the world like a video game where he enabled God mode before starting. Last year, he crashed a Lamborghini Huracan into a boutique storefront in Beverly Hills, walked away without a scratch, without an apology. David donated a new wing to the police station. Case closed. 3 months ago, Marcus punched a classmate who beat him in a lacrosse match, broke the kid's nose in 3 places. The family received a settlement check so large they moved to a different state. 2 weeks ago in Dubai, Marcus trashed a hotel suite $80,000 in damages because the room service was mid. David paid 50 times the cost and got them upgraded to the penthouse. Every time, David smiles that same smirk. The one that says, "See? There are no rules for us." Marcus has 4.2 million followers across platforms. His content is simple. Wealth as performance art. Private jets with captions like, "Sorry, can't hear you from up here." Shopping sprees where he buys things just to throw them away on camera. His comment sections are war zones, half worship, half rage, but Marcus only reads the hate. He pins the worst ones. Responds with laughing emojis. Last week, someone commented, "You're going to piss off the wrong person one day." Marcus replied, "Already rich. Already won. Stay mad." The video got 12 million views. At home, Sarah Chen watches her son's videos with the sound off. She can't bear to hear his voice anymore. The cruelty masquerading as confidence. The emptiness disguised as abundance. She sits across from David at breakfast, her coffee untouched, and says quietly, "You're teaching him there are no consequences." David doesn't look up from his tablet, where he's monitoring stock prices in 6 different time zones. There aren't. Not for us. That's not how the world works. It's exactly how the world works for people with money. He finally glances at her, almost amused. "You think morality scales? It doesn't. It's a luxury poor people invented to feel better about being poor. Sarah's hands tighten around her mug. She wants to argue, but what's the point? She tried leaving once, 2 years ago, made it as far as her sister's house in Portland before David's lawyers filed injunctions, froze her accounts, threatened custody battles that would drain her family dry. She came back. She always comes back. Marcus appears in the kitchen doorway, phone in hand, filming. Morning, fam. Today's vibe is, he pans to his mother's face. She looks away. He laughs, moody. Okay, I see you, Mom. David finally sets down his tablet. Your online behavior is getting sloppy. Marcus stops filming. What? That video where you bought the kids sneakers just to throw them in the trash? His parents hired a lawyer. We settled. But you're drawing the wrong kind of attention. Bro, it's called content. You wouldn't understand. I understand that I'm spending 6 figures a month cleaning up your messes. David's voice sharpens. Be smarter. Mock poor people? Fine. But don't leave evidence. Marcus stares at his father, then grins. That's what I'm learning from you, right? How to get away with it. David's expression softens into something almost proud. Exactly. Sarah stands abruptly, her chair scraping against marble. Neither of them looks at her as she leaves. That afternoon, an envelope arrives. Heavy stock paper, hand-delivered by a man in a black suit who refuses to identify himself. David opens it at his desk. Inside is a single card, cream-colored, embossed with gold lettering. You are cordially invited to Bellissimo. Tonight, 8 p.m., table for 2. David has been trying to get a reservation at Bellissimo for 3 years. It's the city's most exclusive restaurant. No website, no phone number, no publicity. You don't call them, they call you. Celebrities get turned away. Billionaires wait months. He shows Marcus the invitation, and his son's eyes light up with that familiar hunger. The hunger to be somewhere he's not supposed to be, to take up space in rooms that whisper his name. We're going, Marcus says, already planning his outfit, his angles, his captions. David nods, slipping the invitation into his jacket pocket. Neither of them notices the embossed logo at the bottom of the card, so subtle it's almost invisible. A single letter in Cyrillic script, K, for Kozlov. The phone call comes during the appetizer course. Viktor Kozlov excuses himself from the corner booth, with a gesture so slight his bodyguard almost misses it. The flip phone in his hand is ancient scuffed plastic, a cracked screen held together with scotch tape. He walks toward the restaurant's back corridor, past the kitchen where chefs work in reverent silence, and answers on the 4th ring. Papa. The voice on the other end is weak, threaded with pain medication and effort. Anya. Victor's voice drops to something almost unrecognizable. Soft. Human. How are you feeling? The same. The doctors say. A cough interrupts her. Victor closes his eyes. They say we should talk about options. There are always options. Not these kind, Papa. Victor leans against the wall, suddenly older than his 63 years. I will fix this. I promise. You can't fix everything. I can fix this. There's silence on the other end. Not agreement. Just exhaustion. I love you, Papa. I love you, Dorogaya. He's about to say more when he hears footsteps behind him, too close, too casual. He turns. Marcus Chen is following him. Phone raised, camera recording, that same grin plastered across his face like a mask he forgot how to remove. Yo, chat. Should I go ask Grandpa what rotary phones felt like? Marcus narrates to his live stream. 8,000 viewers watching in real time. Comments flood the screen. Do it? Bro, you're wild. Who is that old dude? Victor turns back to his call. Anya, I need to go. Papa, wait. Marcus steps closer, still filming. Bro, is that a Nokia? Can I see that? Chat wants to know if it runs Snake. Victor moves the phone away, his body language clear. Leave. Marcus doesn't read body language. He only reads views, engagement, virality. He reaches for the phone. Playful, entitled, The way you might grab a toy from a friend. Come on, just one pic. Victor pulls back sharply, but Marcus is already grabbing, and the phone slips. Everything happens in slow motion. The flip phone tumbles through the air, spinning. It hits the marble floor with a crack that echoes like a gunshot. The battery pops out. The screen shatters into a spider web of glass and plastic. The entire restaurant goes silent. Not just quiet. Silent. Like the building itself is holding its breath. Marcus laughs, nervous now, but still committed to the bit. Oops. My bad, old man. Want me to Venmo you $20? 50? Victor stares at the broken phone on the floor. His bodyguard appears instantly, bends down, begins collecting the pieces with hands that shake ever so slightly. The last call log on the cracked screen reads, Anya Mobile. 0 hours, 2 minutes, and 34 seconds. 2 minutes and 34 seconds. The last time Victor will ever hear his daughter's voice. Because she'll be dead in 3 days. But he doesn't know that yet. David Chen finally looks up from his table, sees the scene, sees Victor's face, and for half a second his smirk falters. Something primal whispers danger. But money has insulated him from danger for so long he's forgotten what it feels like. He stands, walks over, pulls out his wallet, counts out $500 bills, places them on the bar near Victor. For your trouble, David says, his smirk returning. Marcus, apologize. Marcus is still filming. Sorry, your phone is from 2003, I guess? The comments explode. LMAOO. This kid is savage. Rip Grandpa's flip phone. Victor says nothing. He picks up the broken pieces of the phone himself gently, like they're made of bone. His bodyguard watches his face, sees something there that makes him whisper, I'll make the calls. Victor shakes his head slowly. David takes Marcus by the shoulder, steering him toward the exit. They leave the $500 on the bar. Neither looks back. Victor stands alone in the corridor, cradling the shattered phone in his palms. His daughter will call again in 6 hours. But this phone will never ring again. And by the time Victor realizes what Marcus has actually taken from him, it will be far too late to teach the lesson gently. By morning, Marcus's live stream has 2.3 million views. He wakes to his phone vibrating non-stop notifications flooding in like a digital avalanche. The clip has been reposted across every platform. Rich kid destroys old man's phone is trending on Twitter. TikTok duets show people recreating the moment, adding sound effects, laughing. His follower count jumps by 50,000 overnight. Marcus scrolls through the comments, grinning. Half worship him. King shit, imagine being that bold. I could never. The other half say things that make his grin wider. You're dead. Do you know who that was? Rip Marcus Chen, 2008 to 2024. He screenshots the death threats and posts them with the caption, Y'all are so dramatic. Downstairs, Sarah Chen sits at the kitchen table with her laptop open, her hands trembling so badly she can barely control the mouse. She's found 3 articles, not news articles, deep web forums, archived court documents, Reddit threads that have been deleted and restored a dozen times. She's searching for one name, Victor Kozlov. What she finds makes her blood go cold. When David comes down for coffee, she spins the laptop toward him. David. David glances at the screen, dismissive. Some restaurant owner. Who cares? That was Victor Kozlov. David's hand freezes halfway to his coffee mug. For 3 seconds, maybe 4, his face goes completely blank. Then he forces a laugh. The Mafia guy? Come on, Sarah. That's urban legend bullshit. This isn't a movie. But his voice has changed. She knows that voice, the one he uses when he's pretending not to be worried. David, I'm serious. Look at this. She clicks through tabs. He owns half the port. Shipping, real estate, private security. There's a prosecutor who tried to investigate him in 2019. Now he's disbarred and works at a car wash. A journalist wrote an exposé, her newspaper folded. And she hasn't published anything since. David sets down his mug. I'll handle it. How? The way I handle everything. He pulls out his phone, dials his lawyer. Run a full background check on Viktor Kozlov. Everything you can find. I need it by noon. The lawyer calls back in 18 minutes. David answers on speaker. Sarah watches his face. David. The lawyer's voice is tight, professional, but there's something underneath it: fear. Maybe. Or respect. You need to apologize. Today. In person. Whatever it takes. For a broken phone? It's not about the phone. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not about the phone. David hangs up. He stares at the black screen of his phone for a long moment, then makes another call, then another. By the third call, his jaw is set in that familiar way, the way that means he's decided the world is wrong and he's right. Sarah recognizes the look. David, please. I'm not apologizing to some thug. He stands, straightens his tie. I'm a legitimate businessman. He's a criminal. If he comes after us, we go to the authorities. The authorities work for him. Then I'll find ones who don't. Marcus walks into the kitchen, scrolling his phone. Yo, Dad, my DMs are insane right now. Some people are saying that old dude is, actually dangerous. David looks at his son, really looks at him, and something hardens in his expression. Not anger. Something colder. Calculation. Block anyone who sends you threats. And, for God's sake, stop posting about it. But the engagement is, stop posting. Marcus blinks, surprised. His father rarely uses that tone with him. Fine. Whatever. That afternoon, a man in a tailored suit arrives at David's office building. He doesn't make an appointment. The receptionist tries to stop him, but he walks past her like she's furniture. He's inside David's office before security can respond. David looks up from his desk, startled. Who the hell are? I represent Mr. Kozlov. The man places a single sheet of paper on David's desk. He requests $50,000 for the phone's sentimental value. David laughs, a sharp, genuine laugh. It contained the last voicemail from Mr. Kozlov's late wife. The laughter dies in David's throat. The man continues. His voice even and emotionless. She recorded it 3 days before she passed. He listened to it every night for 6 years. Your son deleted it. David stares at the paper. $50,000. A number that means nothing to him financially. But accepting it means something else, means admitting fault. Means bowing. Means Marcus was wrong. He slides the paper back across the desk. That's not my problem. My son made a mistake. Here's my offer. $1,000. Final. The lawyer doesn't touch the paper. He simply nods, once, and leaves without another word. David feels victorious for exactly 4 hours. Then his head of security calls. Sir, we have a problem. 3 of your cryptocurrency wallets have been frozen. $80 million. I can't access them. I can't trace the block. I can't. What do you mean you can't trace it? The routing goes through 15 countries and ends at a server that doesn't exist on any registry. David's hand tightens around his phone. Find it. We're trying, but I don't pay you to try. I pay you to succeed. He hangs up and stares at his computer screen. At the 3 accounts now showing $0 balances. Somewhere across the city, Marcus posts a meme. Sarah packs a suitcase. And Viktor Kozlov sits in his office, staring at a framed photo of his daughter, his expression unreadable. On his desk, the broken phone has been carefully reassembled. It will never work again. But he keeps it anyway. David Chen does something he hasn't done in 15 years. He asks for a meeting. Not demands, not schedules, through intermediaries. Asks. The word tastes like rust in his mouth, but he says it into the phone anyway, to a man whose voice he doesn't recognize, who simply replies, Tomorrow, 3 p.m. The address will be sent. The address arrives an hour later. A warehouse in the industrial district, the kind of place where shipping containers go to disappear. David brings his lawyer and a briefcase, containing $500,000 in cash, bundled, counted, verified. Marcus isn't allowed to come. For once, David doesn't argue when Sarah insists the boy stay home. The warehouse is exactly what David expected. Concrete floors, fluorescent lights that hum like dying insects, the smell of machine oil, and something older, darker. Viktor Kozlov sits at a metal table in the center of the empty space, alone except for the bodyguard standing 10 feet behind him. David sets the briefcase on the table, opens it. The money is arranged in neat stacks, almost beautiful in its precision. For the phone, for the inconvenience, for my son's stupidity. David keeps his voice level, professional. This is just another negotiation. He's done 1,000 of these. Viktor doesn't look at the money. He looks at David with eyes that seem to catalog everything. Every micro-expression, every tells, every lie David has ever told himself. Your son cost me the last conversation I will ever have with my wife, Viktor says quietly. What's that worth, Mr. Chen? David swallows. I understand you're upset. Do you have children? The question lands like a fist. You know I do. Then you understand that some things cannot be bought. David's lawyer shifts uncomfortably. David feels the conversation slipping, so he pivots back to solid ground, back to what he knows. Then, what do you want? Viktor leans back in his chair. I want you to teach your son respect. Consider it done. We'll stay out of your way. You'll never hear from us again. Viktor studies him for a long moment, then nods. Go. That's it. No threats, no demands. Just go. David closes the briefcase. Viktor never touched it and leaves with his lawyer. They don't speak until they're back in the car. 2 miles away, windows up. That was easier than I thought, the lawyer says, his voice shaky with relief. David says nothing. He's won negotiations before he knows what victory feels like. This doesn't feel like victory. But by the time he gets home, he's convinced himself it does. He sits Marcus down in the study. You're grounded. 1 month. No posts, no parties, no bullshit. Marcus opens his mouth to argue, sees his father's face, and closes it. Fine. And you're going to learn what it means to earn something instead of taking it. Okay, Dad. Jesus. David pours himself 3 fingers of whiskey and allows himself to breathe. He checks his accounts on his laptop. The $80 million is there again, unfrozen, accessible, like it was never gone. He texts his head of security. Crisis over. Stand down. Sarah finds him an hour later, the whiskey glass empty, his shoulders finally relaxed. Is it really over? David pulls her close, kisses her forehead. Rich people problems, honey. Money solves everything. She wants to believe him. She's so tired of being afraid. That night, David sleeps better than he has in days. His phone wakes him at 2:47 a.m. A news alert, the vibration loud against his nightstand. Breaking. Chen Digital Holdings. Subject of SEC investigation, insider trading, fraud allegations surface. His whiskey glass from earlier is still on the desk. Now it's on the floor, shattered, spreading across the hardwood like a stain that won't come out. David's hands shake as he scrolls through the article. Every shortcut he ever took, every illegal trade, every shell company, every bribe, all of it documented, time-stamped, sent to federal investigators. The article quotes an anonymous source. This is just the beginning. The SEC investigation lands like a strategic airstrike, precision-targeted, overwhelming, designed to obliterate. By 9 a.m., David's office is swarmed by federal agents in windbreakers with badges clipped to their belts. They carry boxes out in silence, each one labeled with case numbers that mean nothing to him and everything to prosecutors. His employees watch from behind glass walls, their faces a mixture of shock and something worse, the careful neutrality of people already updating their resumes. David's lawyer arrives at 10:15, pale and sweating through his shirt. He spreads documents across the conference table, warrants, subpoenas, evidentiary lists that span 40 pages. David. His voice cracks on the name. This is everything. Every shortcut you ever took. Every back-channel deal. Wire transfers from 2019 that I didn't even know existed. How did they get this? David stares at the documents, his mind racing. Then it clicks. When were my servers compromised? The lawyer flips through papers. According to the FBI's timeline, they received the initial data dump 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks. Before the restaurant, before the phone, before Marcus even knew Viktor Kozlov's name. David's blood goes cold. He was already planning this. Who? Kozlov. This has nothing to do with the phone. But even as he says it, he knows it's not entirely true. The phone wasn't the cause, it was the excuse. Viktor had been building this case for weeks, maybe months. Infiltrating David's systems, documenting everything, preparing the kill shot. The phone incident didn't start the war. It just gave Viktor permission to go public. By noon, David's biggest investor, a venture capital firm that holds $120 million in Chen, Digital issues a statement. We are suspending all financial commitments pending the outcome of the federal investigation. The stock price collapses. 40% in 6 hours. Trading is halted twice for volatility. By market close, Chen Digital Holdings has lost $200 million in valuation. Marcus sees it on Twitter before his father tells him. The memes are already circulating. Broke boy era loading, from Bellissimo to Taco Bell, the fall of the House of Chen. He finds David in his study, surrounded by lawyers, his tie loosened, his eyes bloodshot. Dad, are we in trouble? David looks at his son and sees a stranger. A child in designer clothes who broke something irreplaceable and smiled for the camera. Go to your room. But go to your room. Marcus leaves. For the first time in his life, he's scared of his father. David turns back to his legal team. We fight this. Countersuits. Appeals. Discovery delays. David, we can't. His lead attorney, a woman who's defended him through 3 previous investigations, shakes her head. The evidence is airtight. Blockchain records, encrypted communications, offshore accounts. Whoever gave this to the FBI knew exactly what they were doing. Then we expose Kozlov. If he's mafia, he's got dirt. We tried. Another lawyer interrupts, looking uncomfortable. 3 judges have recused themselves from cases involving Kozlov in the past year. 2 witnesses we contacted have gone silent. 1 moved to Portugal overnight. David feels the walls closing in. What are you saying? I'm saying Viktor Kozlov doesn't just have power. He has infrastructure, and you're inside it now. That night, David does something he hasn't done in a decade. He digs into his own company's debt structure. What he finds makes him sick. Every loan, every line of credit, every bond his company issued over the past 3 months, they've all been quietly purchased by shell companies. LLCs with names like Apex Holdings, Horizon Capital Partners, Silverpoint Ventures. He traces them through layers of incorporation documents, offshore registries, dummy boards of directors. They all lead back to the same place. Viktor Kozlov owns David's debt. All of it. Nearly $300 million in leverage. If David defaults, and with the SEC investigation, he will, Viktor can seize everything. David's hands shake as he closes his laptop. This was never about revenge. It was about acquisition. His phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. You should have taken the first offer. David calls the number. It rings once, then Viktor's voice. Mr. Chen. You planned this. All of it. I planned for many contingencies. Your son simply chose the most expensive one. The phone was never about the phone. No, Viktor agrees, but it gave me clarity. You raised a child who believes the world has no consequences. I'm simply providing one. I'll fight you. I'll expose. Expose what? That I purchased legally available debt? That I provided evidence of actual crimes to federal investigators? Viktor's voice is calm, almost gentle. You built your empire on fraud, Mr. Chen. I'm just removing the scaffolding. The line goes dead. David sits in his office until sunrise, watching his net worth dissolve in real time. By morning, he's lost another $50 million. His partners are fleeing. His accounts are frozen. His lawyers are suggesting bankruptcy. Marcus appears in the doorway, his phone dead, his credit cards declined at a store. David looks at his son, really looks at him, and sees the truth he spent 16 years avoiding. Maybe if you'd kept your mouth shut, David says quietly, we wouldn't be here. It's the first time he's ever blamed Marcus directly. The boy's face crumbles. Sarah finds David's note that afternoon. She's taking their daughter and leaving. Not asking permission. Not negotiating. Just gone. David is alone in his office, staring at a photo of his family from 5 years ago, back when they smiled like they meant it, when his assistant knocks. Sir, there's someone here to see you. Viktor Kozlov walks in without waiting for permission. He sits across from David, unhurried, and places a contract on the desk. I've come to make you an offer. Viktor Kozlov doesn't look like a man who's winning. He looks tired, the kind of tired that lives in the bones, that no amount of sleep can fix. He sits across from David Chen with the careful stillness of someone who's learned that movement costs energy, and energy is finite. David stares at him, searching for triumph, for smugness, for anything he can hate. Come to gloat? David's voice is raw, from 3 days of shouting at lawyers, at investigators, at the universe itself. I came to make you an offer. Viktor slides a contract across the desk. It's thin, 12 pages. No more. David has signed 100-page merger agreements without flinching. This document terrifies him. He reads the first page, then the second. His hands start shaking at page 3. You're insane. The terms are simple. Surgical. David signs over 70% of Chen Digital Holdings to a shell corporation Viktor controls. In exchange, the SEC investigation disappears. Assets unfreeze. Reputation salvaged. The company continues operating. David keeps his title, keeps his office, keeps 30%. But he'll never make another decision without permission. That's my life's work, David says, his voice barely above a whisper. No. Viktor's tone is patient, almost professorial. That's your son's inheritance. And you're about to lose it all anyway. David forces himself to read the rest. The contract is airtight, drafted by lawyers who understand not just law but leverage, psychology, power. Every escape route sealed, every loophole closed. You'll remain CEO in name, Viktor continues. You'll still be wealthy. Your lifestyle won't change significantly. But you'll remember, every single day, who allows you to have it. David looks up, and something breaks in his voice. Why are you doing this? It's just a phone. It's just a phone. Viktor is quiet for a long moment. When he speaks, his voice carries a weight that makes David want to look away. It's never about the object, Mr. Chen. You raised your son to believe the world has no consequences. He pauses. So, I'm providing one. David's mind races through options he doesn't have. Run where? Viktor's reach extends across continents. Fight with what? Every judge, every official, every person with power to help has already chosen a side, and it isn't his. Appeal to morality from a man who just watched David's empire crumble and showed no emotion? I need time to think. You have 24 hours. After that, I release every illegal transaction you've ever made to every news outlet in the country. You won't just lose your company. You'll lose your freedom. Viktor stands, adjusts his cuffs. Prison is worse for people who've been rich, I'm told. The fall is sharper. He moves toward the door, then pauses, turns back. My daughter died 3 days ago. David's breath catches. Her name was Anya. She was 23, leukemia. She fought for 2 years. Viktor's voice doesn't waver, but something in his eyes does, something human and horrible and raw. That phone held her last voicemail. She recorded it the night before her final surgery. She said she loved me. She said she wasn't scared because she knew I'd always protect her. The silence in the room is suffocating. Your son didn't just break a device, Mr. Chen. He broke the last piece of her I had. Victor opens the door. Teach your son what loss feels like. Then he's gone. David sits alone in his office for 3 hours. Doesn't move. Doesn't call anyone. Just sits. He considers running. He has passports, real and fake. Offshore accounts Victor might not know about. Contacts in countries without extradition treaties. He could disappear. Start over. He's done it before, in smaller ways. But even as he thinks it, he knows it's a fantasy. Victor's reach isn't about geography. It's about knowing which threads to pull to make entire lives unravel. David makes calls anyway. Old friends, former partners, people who owe him favors. Every single one is unavailable, or can't help, or wish I could, David. But my hands are tied. One, a hedge fund manager David saved from bankruptcy 5 years ago, is honest enough to say, he got to us first. I'm sorry. By midnight, David is staring at the contract again, reading terms he's memorized, but can't accept. Marcus appears in the doorway. His eyes are red. He hasn't posted on social media in 4 days a personal record. Dad. His voice cracks. My trust fund is frozen. I can't access anything. You need to fix it. David looks at his son and sees 16 years of mistakes compounded into a single person. Every time he said yes when he should have said no. Every time he paid for silence instead of teaching accountability. Every time he smirked instead of apologized. Do you even understand what you've done? Marcus shifts uncomfortably. I broke some old guy's phone. You said money fixes everything. I was wrong. The words hang in the air like a confession. Marcus stares at his father, genuinely confused. So, fix it. You always fix it. David pulls out Victor's contract, slides it across the desk. I can fix it, but it costs everything. Marcus reads, his face paling with each paragraph. You're going to let him win? Just fight him, sue him, or call the cops or something. With what, Marcus? He owns the judges. He owns the banks. He owns us. Then we tell the FBI. He's a criminal. David laughs a sound like breaking glass. And what are we? The question lands. Marcus's mouth opens, closes. He's never thought of his family as criminals before. They're rich. Rich people aren't criminals. Rich people are untouchable. David finishes his son's thought. That's what I taught you, isn't it? That we're above the law, above consequences. He stands, walks to the window, overlooking the city. We've been operating illegally for years. The only difference between Victor and me is that he's honest about what he is. Marcus slumps into a chair, his phone forgotten in his lap. For the first time in his life, he looks small. What are you going to do? David doesn't answer. He's staring at the contract, at the signature line, at the pen Victor left behind. It's a Mont Blanc. Probably worth more than the phone Marcus broke. His hand reaches for it. Then his phone rings. Unknown number. He answers, Yes, Mr. Chen. This is FBI Special Agent Rebecca Torres. We'd like to discuss your cooperation in our investigation of Viktor Kozlov. David's heart stops. We believe you have evidence that could help us build a RICO case. In exchange for your full cooperation, we're prepared to offer complete immunity. Marcus watches his father's face change from despair to calculation to something that might be hope. When can we meet? David asks. Agent Torres gives him an address. Tomorrow, noon. David hangs up and stares at the contract on his desk. He doesn't have to surrender. He can destroy Victor and keep his empire. For the first time in days, David Chen smiles. Agent Torres meets David at a federal building downtown, concrete and glass. Security checkpoints. The institutional smell of recycled air and copied documents. She's younger than David expected, mid-30s, with sharp eyes that catalog everything. Mr. Chen. She shakes his hand. Thank you for coming. They sit in an interview room. No cameras, she assures him. Off the record. Just a conversation. We've been building a case against Viktor Kozlov for 6 years, Torres explains. spreading files across the table, racketeering, money laundering, extortion. But he's careful, insulated. Every witness either disappears or recants. David leans forward. What do you need? Everything you have. Communications, transactions, threats. You wear a wire to your next meeting with him. Get him to confess. We do the rest. She slides a document toward him. Full immunity. Clean slate. You keep your company. David reads the immunity agreement. It's real federal letterhead, case numbers, signatures from prosecutors 3 levels above Torres. This isn't a trick. This is his way out. He signs without hesitation. 2 hours later, a technician wires him up a device smaller than a button, hidden beneath his shirt, broadcasting to a van 3 blocks away. Torres gives him final instructions. Get him talking about the debt acquisition, about the SEC leak, anything that proves criminal intent. And if he suspects something, he won't. You're desperate. Desperate people do predictable things. David calls Victor's number. I'll sign. But I want assurances. Victor agrees to meet. Same warehouse, 1 hour. David arrives with the contract in his briefcase and a wire against his chest. His heart hammers so hard he's sure Victor will hear it. But he forces himself to breathe, to think like he's closing a deal. Because that's all this is. Another deal. Victor sits at the same metal table, the same bodyguard behind him. He gestures to the empty chair. David sits, opens his briefcase. I'll sign. But I need guarantees. I need to know my family is protected. They will be. And the debt. How do I know you won't just liquidate everything after I sign? Victor tilts his head slightly. Because that wouldn't serve my interests. I want your company functional, profitable. I'm not trying to destroy you, Mr. Chen. I'm trying to teach you. David presses. But the SEC investigation, you orchestrated that. You leaked those documents. Victor smiles faintly. I provided evidence of crimes. That's not illegal. And the debt buyouts? The shell companies? That was all planned before the restaurant. I acquire assets strategically. It's what I do. David feels excitement building. He's getting at the confession, the admission. Torres is hearing all of this. Then Victor leans back, still smiling. You're wearing a wire, aren't you? David's blood turns to ice. The FBI approached you. Agent Torres, I'm guessing, mid-30s, ambitious, trying to make her career. Victor speaks directly toward David's chest. Tell Agent Torres I said hello. David can't move, can't breathe. Victor's lawyer enters. David didn't even hear the door open, carrying new documents, thicker than before. The deal is now 90%, the lawyer announces. And your son spends 6 months working in one of Mr. Kozlov's warehouses. Manual labor, no phones, no privileges. You can't, David starts. I can, and I will. Victor stands. Because you just tried to burn me, Mr. Chen, and that has consequences. David realizes, with horror, that Victor knew. The FBI contact, the immunity offer, the meeting, all of it anticipated. Maybe even orchestrated. Sign now, Victor says, or I call the real FBI with everything I have on you. And unlike Agent Torres, they won't be offering immunity. David's hands shake as he reaches for the pen. The wire is still recording. Torres is still listening. But none of it matters. He signs. 90% of Chen Digital Holdings gone. Marcus will spend 6 months loading shipping containers, supervised by men who hate entitled rich kids. Victor takes the signed contract, nods once, and leaves. David sits alone in the warehouse, the wire still transmitting to a van where Agent Torres must be screaming into her radio. He pulls the wire off his chest, looks at the tiny device in his palm. Then he plays back the recording on his phone. The FBI gave him a copy for his records. Where Victor's voice should be, there's only static. Every incriminating word gone. Replaced with white noise. Victor had been running a jammer the entire time. David drops the device on the concrete floor. It doesn't even crack. It just lies there. Useless. Like everything else he's tried. Outside, his phone buzzes with a news alert. Chen Digital Holdings announces major restructuring, CEO to remain in advisory role. The press release is already written. David Chen no longer owns his own life. 6 months later, David Chen arrives at his office at 7:30 a.m., just like he has for the past decade. Except now, he waits. At 8, a man he's never met walks into what used to be his office and sits behind what used to be his desk. "Morning, David. Coffee?" David declines. He's learned not to accept anything he didn't pay for himself. The man, Victor's representative, a former Goldman Sachs executive named Michael, reviews the day's agenda. "We're selling the Atlanta division. Sign here. The acquisition in Singapore needs your signature for optics. Here. And we're restructuring the executive team. Your input isn't required, but you can attend the meeting if you'd like." David signs where he's told. Chen Digital Holdings is worth $480 million now, growing, even more profitable than when David had full control. He owns 10%, $48 million. A fortune by any reasonable measure. It feels like poverty. His partners don't return his calls anymore. At industry conferences, people avoid eye contact. One former competitor, a man David crushed in a hostile takeover 3 years ago, walked past him at a restaurant and whispered, "How's it feel?" David didn't answer because he doesn't know how to describe it. The humiliation isn't sharp. It's constant, ambient, like tinnitus. Every decision that requires his signature reminds him he's not making decisions. Every headline about Chen Digital's success reminds him it's no longer his success. He's a mascot, a signature, a name on letterhead that carries less weight every day. Marcus completed his 6 months 2 weeks ago. David picks him up from the warehouse district on a Tuesday afternoon. His son emerges wearing clothes that actually fit, not designer, just functional. He's lost 15 pounds, gained muscle in his forearms and shoulders. His phone is in his pocket, screen down. He hasn't posted in 173 days. They drive in silence for 20 minutes before Marcus speaks. "I don't know how to go back." "Back to what?" "To before. To being that person." Marcus stares out the window. "I can't even look at my old videos. I want to delete everything, but also, that's evidence of who I was. And I don't know if deleting it is cowardice or growth." David doesn't have an answer. He's been asking himself the same question about his entire life. They moved out of the main house 4 months ago. Sarah's lawyers made sure of that. She got the house, primary custody of Marcus's younger sister, and a settlement that David's new corporate overlords approved without blinking. David rents a condo now. 2 bedrooms. Nice, but not obscene. The kind of place a successful person lives, not a wealthy one. Marcus stays with him on weekends. On Sunday morning, Marcus finds his father at the kitchen table, staring at a cheap flip phone, not Victor's, but similar. David bought it at a convenience store for $30. "Why'd you buy that?" Marcus asks. "I've been thinking about what can't be replaced." David turns the phone over in his hands. Money can fix a lot of things. But some things, once they're broken, they're just broken. Marcus sits down across from him. "Are we broken?" "Yeah." David's voice cracks. "Yeah, I think we are. Can we be fixed?" David looks at his son, really looks at him, sees someone who's starting to understand consequences, starting to feel the weight of his actions. Too late to undo the damage, but maybe not too late to learn from it. "I don't know, but I think we have to try." That afternoon, David makes a call. A donation $5 million to a leukemia research foundation. Anonymous. It won't bring back Victor's daughter. It won't earn forgiveness. But it's something. The first thing in months that isn't about survival or strategy. The foundation director sounds confused on the phone. "May I ask what inspired this gift?" "I broke something I can't replace," David says. "This won't fix it. But maybe it helps someone else not lose what I took." He hangs up before she can ask more questions. Marcus watches from the doorway. Will that make it better? No. But doing nothing would make it worse. They order takeout that night, Thai food, nothing expensive, and eat in silence. The condo feels too quiet, too small. too honest. Viktor Kozlov doesn't contact them again. David sees him once. At a community center, opening Viktor's foundation funded the building. Their eyes meet across the room. No words, just a nod. The acknowledgement of two men who understand loss from different sides. Viktor's empire stands untouched, silent, powerful. But David's empire, the $500 million he built on arrogance and shortcuts and his son's reckless cruelty, has been systematically dismantled. Not destroyed. Worse, absorbed. Made irrelevant. His name remains on buildings and letterhead, but it means nothing. The smirk David wore that night at Bellissimo is gone, carved away by months of humiliation and irrelevance. The arrogance Marcus filmed for millions is buried under 6 months of manual labor and the haunting understanding that his video went viral the same week Viktor's daughter died. Marcus asks one night, "Do you think he'll ever forgive us?" David considers the question. No. And we don't deserve it. Then what do? We live with what we've done. And we try to be different. Marcus nods slowly. I'm going to delete my accounts. All of them. Why now? Because every time someone watches those videos, I'm still that person, and I don't want to be him anymore. That night, Marcus deletes everything. 4 million followers, gone. Years of content, erased. He sits with his phone dark in his hands and cries not for the followers or the fame, but for the version of himself who thought those things mattered. David sits beside him and says nothing, because some lessons don't have words. They only have weight. 1 year later, David Chen runs a small tech nonprofit teaching coding to underserved kids in community centers across the city. The organization is funded by what remains of his fortune, $48 million, carefully managed. Slowly spent on people who need it more than he does. He'll never be what he was. The name Chen Digital Holdings exists. But when people hear it, they don't think of David anymore. They think of the efficient, profitable company that Viktor's people run. David's legacy has been overwritten. Marcus volunteers at the nonprofit every weekend. He's quieter now, careful with his words. He's enrolled in community college not because he needs the degree, but because he needs to learn what real work feels like. They see Viktor one last time, at the opening of a children's hospital wing named after Anya Kozlova. David and Marcus stand in the back during the ceremony. They don't approach. They don't deserve to. Viktor gives a brief speech about his daughter, her kindness, her dreams, the future she never got to live. When he finishes, his eyes sweep the crowd and land on them. No words. Just a look that contains everything. The phone, the restaurant, the empire, the consequences. Then he turns away. David and Marcus leave before the reception. That night, David teaches a 10-year-old girl named Sophia how to code. She makes a mistake, deletes an hour of work by accident. She panics, tears welling up. I broke it. I'm so stupid. Hey. David kneels beside her. Mistakes are how we learn. We'll rebuild it together. It'll be better this time. She nods, wiping her eyes. Marcus watches from the doorway. For the first time in a year, something in his chest loosens. Not forgiveness, not redemption, just the smallest acknowledgement that they're trying. The $500 million empire David built on arrogance is gone, wiped out, absorbed, made meaningless. The smirk he wore at Bellissimo has been replaced by something heavier, understanding. And the rich kid who smashed a mafia boss's phone, he's just a kid now, trying to figure out how to live with what he's done. The title promised a wipeout. It delivered. Not through violence, not through revenge. Through the slow, deliberate removal of everything they thought made them untouchable, until all that remained was the truth they'd spent a lifetime avoiding. Money can't buy back what you've broken, and some debts can never be paid, only carried.